Hello, watchers, and thank you for stopping by this video by the Political Napalm. So the topics that I want to cover in this particular video is a little bit of discussion on what has been going on with Trump since the attempted assassination attempt on Saturday of last week. Of course, we've gone through that where a supposed bullet whizzed by Trump's ear, potentially nicked him in the cartilage, and then he was carted off by the Secret Service. We went over the fact that there seemed to be some oddities in all of that, in that a 223 or 556 round likely would have done a tremendous amount of damage to the ear, even if it was just in the cartilage area. As people pointed out, they had expected to see quite a bit more blood. There was none on Trump's collar. There was a small trickle coming down the ear and splashes on the face, but not too much blood. I mean, obviously, we're not talking about a head wound. We know scalp wounds tend to bleed profusely. Any fan of UFC knows that one firsthand. Cartilage does not have the biggest amount of blood supply in the world. It would be relatively low flow, but would it be as low as we saw it with him? And of course, we have spent the week itemizing and picking apart the special services response to it and things that happened. The Secret Services. You know, we've looked over how the Secret Service has handled the event when it happened. More things have come to light prior to the shooting, that Secret Service and the local police had been alerted to Thomas Crooks' presence by several people pointing to the area. The authorities have Thomas Crooks' phone. It has been dumped. They are making their way through it. It is an iPhone, and this was going to be interesting to know what the FBI would do for it, because in the past, Apple has said they would not crack phones for authorities. Now, I do believe Apple was eventually pressured to do it after all, but they stood against it for a while, and I don't remember which particular instance was it. It may have been the Las Vegas shooter or an attempted bombing. I've forgotten the details, as I believe it was a few years ago now at this point, but in the past, Apple has stood against unlocking a device when a lock is present, be it a pin or fingerprint or Face ID and everything. In this particular case, FBI said they had it, they were into it, and they were currently dumping the contents to look for any signs of a pattern or reason why he did this. At this point, the FBI has gotten in, and we will go over what they have learned from the phone. It is a bit surprising in its normalcy, actually, and that's what's really, really surprising about it. It is, for lack of a better term, rather balanced. And what they've discovered, we could still sit here and say it is unhinged overall, but it is balanced in terms of political spectrum. We've also heard and seen conflicting reports from Thomas Crooks' classmates. Originally, one of the earliest interviews was that there was a classmate who had said that Crooks was definitely a conservative. He said that he was bullied. He said that he was a conservative. When they had political debates in one particular class, the The teacher said, okay, get on this side of the room. And he presented a liberal point, and he said, get on this side of the room when he presented a conservative point. And Thomas kept being on the conservative side alone. That is eerily similar to, what we knew about Kyle Rittenhouse after he was thrust into the public spotlight. He did not seem to be a over-the-top Trumper the way Kyle was. But more news has come out this week that more classmates and teachers have been interviewed, and they were like, no, he was not bullied. He was a loner. It's rather chaotic, the messaging in this. He was a loner, kind of stood alone, didn't really hang out with anybody. No, he had a small circle of friends. Somebody in one breath had said he wasn't really bullied, but he was made fun of because he did not wear good clothing and he smelled. He had bad hygiene. I can tell you, the clothing thing is definitely a true possibility. Growing up, I moved from a particularly middle-class area to more of a upper-class area. And in junior high and high school it got better. But in junior high, everything was about what you were wearing. Popular brands at the time, Reebok, Benetton, Champion, Adidas. I mean, things at this point you're like, what? First of all, like, what's a Benetton? I can imagine a lot of people thinking of, but Reebok and Adidas and Champion, you must be thinking that's everyday stuff. At that time, they were new. They were extremely popular. So me still having some pairs of Buster Browns, which had a tendency to look like an orthopedic shoe. Not that anybody knew that at the time and made fun of that, but there was definitely a period of time in junior high where I was considered not particularly popular because of the clothes that I was wearing. And I came from an area where that was not a concern whatsoever, and I didn't particularly have a specific fashion sense, and I wasn't running around with like a bowl haircut and Buster Browns and corduroys with patches on the knees or something like that. But it certainly dropped my standing at the time in junior high. Believe it or not, by the time I got to high school, things had gotten better, and it seemed like people were judgmental more on your character and essence of being than what you were wearing. And by high school, I had fit into a role that I like to call the middle of the Olympic rings. I had jock and cheerleader friends. I had dirtbag play handball behind the school, smoke cigarette friends. I had theater friends. I had nerd friends. I had friends in the grade below me. One of my best friends was a year younger. I had sort of nowhere people that kind of didn't really fit in. They weren't the nerds, but they weren't the super popular. I was doing homecoming stuff. I was doing comp night stuff. So I was able to float into many different areas. But if what Thomas dealt with was similar to my very late elementary school and junior high experience after moving to a more upscale area and how those kids were, yeah, then that, believe it or not, is a form of bullying. You don't have to be pushed around or kicked or slammed into a locker or physically attacked for bullying to occur. And you can certainly see this with what children go through today with social media and online crap. You know, you get enough people calling a girl a slut on social media, and I'm sure she's got a bad reputation. My generation didn't really have to deal with that, and my generation didn't really even have to deal with shooting in schools. I can't say I ever knew of a weapon being brought to any of the schools that I went. There were fights, but weapons, no, certainly not shootings. But I could imagine that this kid was picked on. You see the pictures of him, the glasses, the looks like I think acne on the lip. Yeah, he seemed to be dealing with acne there. I thought I've seen one where there was a little bit of acne right here on the upper lip and everything like that. Um, so the information about him has become a mixed bag. I believe the mother, at least in one point in time, was Democrat. I forget if it was revealed how the father leans, but there was some reporting that there were Trump signs out in front of his house, at least at one point. And we will get into this. They're still talking about the donation to a Democratic PAC, but that would have been when he was 17. I've seen a lot of counter information that that was a old man with the same name in the same general area that had done the donation, but that Thomas Crooks was a registered Republican and voted Republican in 2022. The PAC donation would have been when he was 17, and I mean, it was only $15. You could do that with a paper route, but yeah, the information on him has gotten muddy. It went from portraying him as the loner potential shooter type to some people saying no, he wasn't picked on. Everybody said he's a smart kid. I believe he worked as a nurse in an assisted care. I think this article talks about it, assisted care or elderly care facility, and they were shocked. But before we get into the rest of the video, I just wanted to share this story that our man Al Bundy, aka Ed O'Neill, showing that he is a national treasure.
15th hole of one of his golf courses, I don't know the name of it, on the Potomac River, right? He's got a plaque that he's quoted on the plaque as saying this is where the Blood River battle took place. And I'm proud to honor both North and South soldiers who fought here on this historic spot, where so many lost their lives that this Potomac River became red with blood, and signed it, Donald John Trump. Only one problem, there was never any such battle. He made it up. Now, David, what kind of a man would do that? You know what I'm saying? I mean, it's the smallest things that tip you off as to this guy is nuts. On the 15th hole.
Just another fine example of how much Trump lies about these things. There is an old interview with him, I believe in the 80s, where they are asking him, what are you reading currently aside from your own books? And by the way, those older books like Art of the Deal and everything, Trump tells you who he is in those books. Many people have forgotten. He brings up stiffing the contractors and his plan of, he takes the little guys, doesn't pay them, and then knows they don't have the resources to compete with him in court, and they know they'll just drop it and everything. I mean, he tells you those things in those books, but people forgot, and they didn't want to learn the lesson. They just want to be in the cult so they can sit in the audience at the RNC and wear maxi pads, scotch tape to their ear in solidarity with the dude that we don't even truly know if he's been shot yet properly, and that it wasn't debris or anything like that. So, but this interview from mid to late 80s, like, what are you reading? And I think he's saying, he mentions a book. I think it was Bonfire of the Vanities at the time. I was like, oh, Bonfire of the Vanities. And they ask him some things about it, and he doesn't seem to know about it. He's like, oh, okay, so what else are you reading? And then he's like, the newest book by the author of the Bonfire of the Vanities. And they're like, well, that's the Bonfire of the Vanities. He's like, no, the other one. And they're looking at him like, you're crazy. Okay, so what book are you reading? Bonfire of the Vanities. It's just you have to go look up the interview, but you can see modern Trump in young Trump back there, and you can see how it starts and the lies and the tripping over himself and the fact that he lies about the stupidest things that will absolutely be easy to prove and reveal him for his lies and how he is and who he is. But he still does it anyway, and he's not intelligent enough and artful enough to build gobstopper layers over that lie to insulate him. He leaves himself exposed. And it happened when the people were asking him, what is your favorite Bible verse? Oh, it's, religion's personal. Okay. But, you are the God's candidate here. You are the anointed one. What is your favorite verse? I don't like to talk about that. My relationship with God is personal. And then after that one, and it goes to show you how bad his PR people are. He didn't have anybody tell him, okay, you're probably going to get this a lot, and it's not even going to come from people trying to trip you up. We need to prepare you for this. This is what you need to say. At least know this number, this verse or something. Like, ye not know when the master comes. Just something. And he couldn't even do that, because then he gets on a radio show and the broadcasters say, okay, can you lead us in an opening prayer? Say a prayer with us. And he's just like, hello, I can't hear you. I don't know if you guys are there. So I just wanted to tell you, come to my rally Friday at 3:00. It'll be great. 10,000 people will be there, I'm sure. And he's pretending that there's audio issues and that he can't hear the casters, that he literally could just a second ago. But the moment they put him on the spot and they say, can you do something? I don't know if you can hear me. I'm sorry. So he lies constantly, and he doesn't even have people around him that help him protect himself from himself. Or they have tried and he just doesn't care. As a public relations person by trade prior to my current profession, I can tell you, if I was his PR person, I would have shot myself in the head 732 times. This video that you're seeing here, the constant attacks on Biden for a bad debate and he should drop out, and does he have what it takes, and does he have the stamina and everything. I want to remind people that, similar to what Ed O'Neill said there about the battle never took place there, this is also a guy who said there were airports during the Revolutionary War, and here he is falling asleep at the RNC just the same way he did during the trials in New York. You want to talk about presidential fitness and stamina. I mean, you could see it here, this constant discussion of Hannibal Lecter and Silence of the Lambs, and these people like Marjorie Taylor Greene's boyfriend there, they just smile at him. It's like, what is with you people? Call him out on this stuff. Get out of the cult. Untape the bandage, the maxi pad from your ear, and listen to what he says and process it, and stop letting him get away with this stupidity. Here, so he's finally elected his vice president, and it's J.D. Vance out of Ohio. J.D. Vance is not a particularly good person. This is somebody who said that abused wives should stay in their relationships to help the kids and everything. Women, you don't matter. You can get tossed around like a beanbag, but you should stay there for your kids. Be a good mother, even if daddy is smacking you. His wife, being Indian, he went through what I do believe was a Hindi marriage to Usha. Now this is all coming to light, because even though J.D. Vance was known on the national stage, now he's super known on the national stage, and they have discovered that his wife is not Caucasian. Cue the racist attacks. We've seen this before within the Republican Party, and what's kind of funny is the person that it was directed at kept blaming Democrats when it was always Republicans that were doing it. There's a congressperson, I don't remember the name. It's not that Valentina Gomez. It's not that Anna Luna. It was somebody of Hispanic heritage, and they ran for position and they got it. But they also believed that there should be some red flag laws for guns and wanted some common sense things for guns, even though she's pro 2A and pro gun ownership. And immediately MAGA began to turn on her and attack her. And they were the ones who started saying, are you even a citizen? You know, basically, do you even go here? And they started attacking her heritage and the fact that she was Hispanic and everything. And she was like, I am what the Democrats fear. I am a woman. I am in a minority class. And here I am now in Congress and blah, blah, blah. Nobody on the Democrat side cared about her. Nobody paid her any attention. It's like, okay, congratulations. You won your race. Good. Let's get to business. But it was the right wing. It was MAGA that went on an attack on her the moment she stuck a pinky out of the bubble and was like, yeah, you know, maybe we should look about mentally ill people owning guns. And we should look at some red flag laws there. And the MAGA just went boom and started roasting her. And she was like, yeah, but the Democrats are the bad ones. It's like, lady, this is your own party doing this. I mean, another one I don't understand is Caitlyn Jenner. Caitlyn Jenner is a fervent Trumper, and if you look at Republicans on social media, they use trans like an insult. I just was in a conversation with somebody over the last 2 days who started off an attack on DEI the way it was CRT over the last couple of years and said Democrats don't want to fund the military. They just want to fund trans people messing up their junk. And I'm like, oh, God. How do you let these thoughts get out? Like, how do you put that out there for other people to see? It's so abhorrent to be that nasty, unprovoked. And I can't believe, I've read something like that. But, you know, that's MAGA. And here they are attacking now the vice presidential candidate's wife because she is not Caucasian. Targeted with vile comments, racially charged messages on social media platforms. They stem from certain MAGA factions that disapprove of the interracial marriage. J.D. Vance, who did the Hillbilly Elegy book and then became a movie, he's saying, you know, my wife is an incredible person, supported me all the time. I will not tolerate this hate. He's getting bipartisan support on it. Tim Scott, who has an imaginary girlfriend, has commented on it. Cory Booker's commented on it. He's a Democrat. Lucia Vance hasn't made any statements. This is incredible, and it always comes from one particular side. You're not going to see people on the left saying, oh, yeah, you're some staunch conservative religious person there, J.D. Vance. Your wife is Indian or Southeast Asian. You don't see that happening. And it doesn't come from the left. It always comes from the right. And it even comes from the right against their own people. I mean, Trump went after Mitch McConnell's wife and called her, if I remember correctly, Coco Chow. And how could Mitch McConnell turn around and be like, yeah, I like Trump? How could Ted Cruz be like, yeah, I like Trump, even though he said my wife is the ugliest thing alive and that my grandfather killed JFK? It's baffling. It is baffling to people whose brains function. I wanted to bring up this little infographic over here because people have noticed that Trump has been doing a lot of outdoor rallies in mostly free areas where it is not expensive to hold the rally. And that is because these outdoor areas are cheaper and people are constantly getting sick at the rallies. They need medics. They're getting heat exhaustion. But you have, the beach one. You have this Pennsylvania one. I think you had ones recently that were out in like Arizona when it was about 110, not even the heat index, just the base temperature was like 110. And they're just dropping like flies with heat exhaustion. The reason why he was in that situation on last Saturday in Bristol, Pennsylvania and everything, is because he can't book these indoor arenas and keep his people safe and everything. And he would have been able to have Secret Service do better protection and everything because he still owes this amount of money to this amount of cities and everything. El Paso and Minneapolis right there, that's $1 million. Just $1 million right off the top. And then you have 17,000 up here with Green Bay and Burlington, 35 in Erie, 16 in Lebanon, a high 65 in Spokane, and Mesa, a high 82 in Tucson. I mean, it's incredible. Not to mention the 211 in Albuquerque over there. This is why he's been doing these things outdoors, like the New Jersey one and everything. It's because he can't continue to book these indoor areas where it could be a little bit cooler and he could keep his people safe because he owes too many people money. What are you doing with your donation money? I mean, yes, it's all going to Eugene Carroll, basically. Rudy hasn't gotten paid. These cities haven't gotten paid. So here's CNN's report on Thomas Crooks, and he will be the last topic we'll deal with in this particular video. This one will talk about his phone and everything. So they want to hold a hearing with Secret Service and Kimberly Cheadle and Chris Wray and all them. And I believe that will be maybe the 22nd, I think is the date. I think it is important. I think Republicans are approaching this from, why didn't the Secret Service do a good job? And I think a lot of the rest of us want to be like, why does it seem like this is fake? Republicans and Democrats are coming to the same point, except one is coming in from the West and the other one's coming from the East. We're coming from very different areas, but we still are kind of looking for the same answers. And the anomalies to the right seem like it's a Secret Service plot. Things about like MK Ultra pointing out that Alex Jones said maybe it would be a good thing if Trump got shot or killed, and then the left is coming in from what sounds like conspiracy theories of, but this doesn't add up. And why did they let him get his shoes and his lifts? And why did they let him stick his head above the bubble and do the fist and what seems like a Nazi salute wave? And, the left looks at the fact that Secret Service didn't respond to the guy on the roof, despite it being pointed out, because it was all a setup. The right is like, the Secret Service didn't respond because they're in on it to let Trump die. It's crazy, but yes, we do need some solid answers. We do know Crooks had been to the place twice since he knew that Trump was going to appear there. And one of the times he seemed to be checking it out with a rangefinder scope. Checking distances. I'm sorry, I said Bristol. Bristol is Connecticut. It's Butler, Pennsylvania. I grew up often hearing about the city of Bristol in New Haven because they were like right over the water. He conducted searches about depression disorder, administration. Officials were telling Congress. So he had some searches in there, but nothing seemed crazy. They combed through his physical and digital trail. They believe it was an assault rifle style weapon. They were looking for motive. They don't really have one. They don't know what was going on. He had searches and pictures of several people, including Trump, Biden. When was the DNC? Where would it be? I believe there was even a picture of Rudy on his phone. Two sources on the call also said briefers told lawmakers that the shooter visited the rally location twice, including the day of the shooting. Based on the ping data, it was estimated the shooter was there for 70 minutes. Law enforcement briefed investigators that, in addition to photos of Trump and Biden, the speaker's phone also had pictures of congressional leaders like Mike Johnson and Hakeem Jeffries. Other politicians across the political spectrum, including Rudy, Fani Willis. They were two other people there. Almost all the pictures seemed to have been downloaded from the internet, were not accompanied by threatening language or messages. Discord has said he had a very not used Discord account, but there's no record of him engaging in conversations with people that seem to be terroristic and threatening and everything. It wasn't like when it was believed that Kyle Rittenhouse was not responding to, but at least part of a militia group on Facebook prior to the Kenosha shooting. And Facebook was warned that there was a lot of violent rhetoric in that group. And Facebook admitted they should have taken it down sooner, but after the shooting, they did take it down. They were like, whoops, our bad. We should have gotten to this quicker. You guys were right. It's not good. Mike Lee, the guy who shared the golfing picture of Trump, saying here he is. He just got shot yesterday, and today he's golfing. This was misinformation when he did it. It was a video that had been taken a few days prior, but it had been uploaded the day after the shooting, but it was days before the shooting in which it was took. So he actually, a Republican, promoted a bit of a conspiracy theory there, but law enforcement identified the shooter suspicious 19 minutes before the shooting. Police responded to a call of a, quote, suspicious male around the same time Trump arrived at his rally. The reports of the suspicious male placed him as being near the AGR building where the assassin actually launched the attack from. From the roof, it was about 150 yards to the north of the rally stage. Crooks fired several shots at Trump, grazing his ear, hitting several rally attendees, including one who was killed. That's that firefighter. It's a little bit telling that Biden jumped on the phone to offer his widow his condolences. She refused to take the call, saying, "My husband was a devout Republican. I appreciate the thought, but I would not take that phone call." And the really sad thing is, I've seen that guy's Twitter. It is as aggressive as a lot of other right-wing MAGA social media. It's things like Piers Morgan saying, what would happen to all of these Palestinians when the war is done? Who will help them get back into houses when their homes have been destroyed? Will it be Israel? Will it be Palestine? And he said, and I quote, "They will get over it like the Japanese did." Comments like that were on that guy's Twitter. So he was devout Republican implies religion, but I kind of know what his wife means by that. Trump finally did get around to doing the call. It was a few days later, but Biden was like the first one to do it. And they brought his helmet and fire jacket to the RNC with a name misspelling on there. That was a little bit of conspiracy theory against Trump, that they, meaning Trump's team, misspelled his name, but it was actually his jacket. And the misspelling apparently was always there. He just went with it. And then Trump proceeded to kiss it and kiss the fire jacket on the stage at RNC, which is really, really cringy and really, really stupid and very reminiscent of when he basically dry humped an American flag. Very, very cringy, as was Hulk Hogan and the Crissley daughter. I mean, they paraded out so many idiots there at the RNC. Hulk Hogan ripping his shirt and trying to be like, yeah, what are you going to do when Trumpomania runs wrong? Oh, God, it's so bad. Let us not forget Hulk, a.k.a. Terry Hogan, has also dropped the N-word and had a really, really dicey piece of adultery in his past that was on video and just kind of gross and stuff. Perfect little Trumper, but still sad. Officers did not initially locate the person around the building. They went looking for him. An officer scaled the building, saw the individual on the roof who pointed the rifle at him. He realized he'd be in a lot of trouble. There was no way he could get up there and do anything to the guy, so he let go and fell to the ground. But by the time anybody could kind of go with what he just saw, the individual started firing. So very, very quickly, after he stuck his head up there and Crooks like aimed the rifle at him, like, yeah, He like dropped to the ground, and you might say, okay, didn't he get on a radio and say, this guy's got a rifle up here, do something? Apparently, it was very, very quick after that the shots rang out. Cheadle was being harassed at the Republican National Convention by Republicans chasing Cheadle down, trying to find out what's going on. And she was refusing to answer questions, saying, this is not the time and the place. We will get to it. Marsha Blackburn, whose hair looks like an unkempt bird's nest, was after her too, and saying, you guys were aware of the threat. Why didn't you do anything? And Cheadle was like, yeah, this is not the time and the place. John Barrasso was like, you have no shame, you no concern. You're supposed to protect the president of the United States. This was an assassination attempt. You owe people answers. I've also seen media that the area where he was in was actually in the domain of the local cops. The Secret Service had their tight area where they could maintain control and everything, but he was in a perimeter that the local police were supposed to be doing. So, of course, we don't have the most amount of answers right now, but we do know that the phone was dumped. Nothing is standing out over there. He does not seem to have engaged in violent rhetoric, whether viewing it or saying it himself. Some people have said that he did go to a place where he could learn to shoot, and he was considered so bad in his aim that he was dangerous, and that he was not allowed back. There were explosives in his vehicle, suspicious devices. When he was shot and killed, he was found with not only a cell phone, but things that could be a remote to trigger these devices. Here's that $15 donation to the Progressive Turnover Project. They said it was on the day that Biden was inaugurated, but again, I still think there is some truth to the fact that this is somebody with a similar name who did that, because he would have been 17 at the time. That's an odd age to be doing political donations, but he was registered as a Republican, and he voted in a local, he did a local vote of Republicans. There's also been media that his dad was in a Trump database for being very pro-2A and pro-gun, and he was being, the dad or the family was being targeted as being potentially very Republican, very Trump, very supportive to their causes and everything. Again, I don't know how much truth there is in that one, but it's, how there's that joke about, FBI has a file on somebody. There's been press that the Republicans have had a file on this family as a potential good person to target to be supportive of Trump and Republicans. Here's Discord saying there was nothing on his Discord that seemed crazy. Here's the nursing and rehabilitation home saying he worked as a dietary aide, clean background, performed his job well, very surprising. So yeah, at least as of now, there doesn't seem to be much of a motive. However, press has reported that he went on some Steam forums and said, this day, July 13th, will be like the day my presence is felt and everything. So perhaps he was not necessarily against Trump, but just simply picked a target to be heard. Jeremy spoke in class today. This might have been his Jeremy speaking. We don't fully know as of yet. He might not have been trying to take Trump out for any reason of disliking Trump. It may have simply been a target of opportunity that was close enough to him that he can get to by car very easily, scoped out, figured where he could be, where the stage was, did a little bit of homework and did more of a crime of opportunity rather than being anti-Trump. And, if Biden was the one holding that rally there, perhaps Biden would have been the one that was shot at, or maybe, another Republican House of Rep person or Senate person. So, yeah, very, very little is known about this guy, and we're receiving conflicting information as to his high school years and his scholastic years and everything, whether he was bullied or not and picked on or not, whether he was conservative. Somebody who was Hispanic said he went after me for being pro Trump. He's like, you're Hispanic. Why are you pro Trump? So now classmates are even saying that he was against conservatives, which flies in the face of the people who said he was picking conservative viewpoints in a debate class. I don't know. I think we need to wait for more clear information as to who Thomas Crooks was to find out at least that kind of stuff. And we honestly still really deserve medical records about Trump and his treatment post shooting to end the debate of what was he hit by? Was this really staged, or was this just incredible cosmic luck that he was looking in that direction and then even rotated his head a little bit further right as the bullet was coming by? Was it debris? Was it a teleprompter, glass, shrapnel? Was it the bullet? There's a lot that is not answered about this, and we don't really seem to be getting anywhere other than a few things about Thomas Crooks. So thanks for watching this video, everybody. I have a feeling it's run a little bit long, but this has been a lot of very interesting information. Have a good one, folks.